Hello again. Welcome to another Toku Ramblings. Besides Gar, we are taking our first step into a not Tsuburaya and or Toei Tokusatsu production in Chousei Kantai Sazer-X. I guess instead of my going over everything thing, I'm gonna more split this into positives and negatives, and I guess more or less if I'm wanting to really rip about Tokucast in regards to this setup, the really bad stuff. Let's start with the positives. I think the overall aesthetics of the season are not. They're decent in my opinion. They're not. They're probably maybe I'd say at most maybe a low B, high C tier kind of look. It's not the worst, but I think it's a decent balance of colors. It's not too naked on the bottom, so it doesn't look like much is going on there. And the mech fights, in my extension, their overall design does look really solid. This was made by Toho, who did clearly have a lot of experience in giant fighting between kaijus and the like. So this was something that they were clearly going to do really good. Other positives. Shark is okay. I think Shark as both a mentor and a character on his own is perfectly fine. I like his more serious kind of tone going for him. I think his story, which disregarding all the timey-wimey stuff we have going, is the one I enjoyed the most. The stuff he has regarding him and Jackal, the sort of evil Sazer that we get is fine. Again, his interactions with the team, I think, are good. 2 minutes 35 seconds, huh? Anything else positive? Anything else? I think Gain's also okay. Hey, nothing great, but I like his more laid-back nature comparatively to the other two. Who one annoyed me and the other was just not interesting. I like the episode where he's initially forced to turn on them because his parents are his family is threat at him. That's not anything new, but it was the most interesting thing I had going. And let's get into the meat of this. This is, I don't like calling something bad or mediocre because this is probably someone's childhood. Someone probably did watch this either through subs or more didn't even watch it, but if this was meant to emulate Ultraman, Kamen Rider, and Super Sentai, it feels like an emulation and not like its own thing. Let's get the big thing out of the way here. I think this show has one of the worst opening 12 episodes you can imagine. And the beginning of a series is always one of the more important things because it's meant to hook your eye and get them in for the long haul because Tokus can be a long haul thing, especially if you're a Sentai or Kamen Rider fan who has to deal with nearly 40 episodes. See, this, I hated the main character initially, if you are not a fan of, your standard 2010 late, mid, Red Rangers, you're not gonna like that. So he is very much that stock standard shonen protagonist you see hurled as a complaint towards many modern Reds from that time, and it's just, I don't like the whole need to be better than his grandpa. Oh yeah, I guess I can also say I did sort of like the grandpa, more so than the Ninja Grandpa, because at least he was I am not Jesus. I am not Superman. You do not have to somehow compare it to me or become that, which, yes, he does grow out of his worser traits, but I just did not like him. He was just the reminder of the worst kinds of I want to be the best and no one's going to hold me back. I don't like you because more or less blah blah blah. Bleh. He is. Ugh. And like he weirdly becomes the voice of reason by the end, which baffles me to no end. And then the villains. Okay, the first villains, the free Shogun. And like the setup is that 495 years from the year 2005, the Earth's taken over by space pirates who gathered the Cosmo capsules, just your standard kind of collectible thing we're gonna sell to kids later. So the resistance fighting against them sends back free giant mecha and 2 soldiers to fight alongside them because Shark knew the grandfather because he had been time traveling before. Beforehand, which includes the girl that they're totally not gonna get together, you know. No, they clearly show that, you know, they don't like each other, even in the episode where a weird love triangle props up between him and Blair. Yeah, Blair, she's like, there is nothing between me and this guy. Like, nothing whatsoever. You have to believe me on that. It's just like, we get it, you're not going to get together, i.e. you're totally going to get together. But yeah, the villains might... This is as if you gave the... You just innately had the comic relief villains, and nothing else. These are some of the least threatening, most uninteresting villains I think I have ever seen. Yeah, like, you know, even the weakest or worst villain factions at least had, you know, the stand. That, you know, Zangetsu's core had Chousei. Phoenix for the Phantoms, though some people might disagree otherwise, but none of the Shoguns stand out for the good things. And this just goes for the entire show's main cast. It's just stock, generic, never really feels like it's stepping out of any kind of thing. And Blair's the big, dumb, hot-blooded idiot who's meant to be our rival, the vain and prideful girl who more less, you know, needs to prove herself superior, and then the lazy smart guys. In the first 13 episodes, these guys get no victory whatsoever, and that just kills any tension the show has. I never once feel any threat coming from these three, and I will give credit. This show, I say, goes from a bad to terrible to average to below average show. I wouldn't say like, I thought the idea of more or less, you know, Blair having to rethink the whole takeover the world plot when it turns out their leader is nothing but a robot. But is interesting. And I'll give credit that Blair probably has the most interesting things happening to him, you know. He initially breaks away from them when their ancestors come back to ensure that they still take over the world. Well, then he sort of jumps from being semi an ally to being a bad guy to then choosing to be a good guy because he sees how badly Jackal was screwed up by his need for vengeance. Gents, I wouldn't say... Would I say he's my favorite? Oh god, am I saying that he's... I would say he's probably one of the better ones because he had sort of an arc, but he does not start that way. But, yeah. Yeah, like, the villains, quote-unquote, get better in the way that more or less we get actual competent ones you actually can feel a threat from. And, like, they really, like, make it abundantly clear, because, like, the episode they show up in, they just take every Cosmo capsule besides a singular one that the heroes had nearly killed them if it weren't for Shark show up. Like, I can't tell if that was just complaints about how the villains were not threatening, but, like, yeah, we have a general who treats his subordinates like garbage, and then there's the generic dark chick who shows no respect in Grasa, which I will give credit. I would only could have just say good, bad, term. Like, they do more just be kind of jumping around, because it's not. I like their use of how she inadvertently is the one to kill herself. Because she inadvertently breaks. She doesn't. Like, you'd think they would know their family line, and by extension why it would probably be a good idea to do something, but I guess that's a thing. And, God, but after that, the big one comes back. He's standard evil thing, like this thing, and the generals, the initial three sort of have their turn good thing, but it's not as interesting as Blair's turn to good. It just feels like they're around just because they really have no choice. In Cyclone's case, he's just brainwashed to be even more evil, rather than to continue of his own choice. And yeah, the other heroes. I talked about Kane. I stated I'm not fond of Odd because his name is too long and I don't feel like reading out his standard shonen angsty stoic rival with a superiority complex who gets a weird plot twist in that the space pirates used to come from Earth, but they were kicked off by Odd's people, which causes him to have a crisis of faith for a few episodes and causes him to be a lot more chill. He sort of has something with Takuto's little sister. Oh yeah, the rest of the family, Takuto's sister and mother show up for a couple of episodes. They exist, they're a thing. But yeah, it's sort of like his assistant Gordo. Oh, he was okay. Kind of a funny little guy. I liked his wife too. That's like there's not much done with either of them. Them that I feel. And then there's Kane's robotic assistants. They like baths. That's kind of all I can remember about them. But yeah. Again, I've also talked about how Takuto and the main female love interest, Remy Freed, have, like, no chemistry. Like, it is astounding how little chemistry these two have. And like, yeah, between the earlier plot twists, this series just loves complicating itself even further, because it turns out that Remy came from the year 1960, like from the 60s, and was taken to the future to have some kind of incurable disease. And look, again, they probably mentioned it, but I'm blanking out there, but like, just say like cancer or heart disease or like some. And you don't have to more or less be like unknown rare disease. Like, you can even just give up and. I mean, like, she gets the most development because she views Shark as her sort of father figure and has to come to accept the future that's going to happen, which is, it's fine. I'm like, that's the big thing. This is fine, but it is not interesting in any way. Like, there's bad guys, there's good guys, there's attempts to make things more interesting on life. I haven't even heard timetable stuff, so they're going back to change the present, so the future is not garbage and dark and stuff like that. So, like, there is the obvious stuff of, like, when two characters don't get together, we're a villain, more or less. That erases grounds from history. That makes sense. Why neither Kane or Ad, or by extension Remy, are erased from the timeline because, you know, the present doesn't happen. The future changes. The reason why Shark goes in the past does not happen anymore. So why do they still exist? Like, they try. Like, I know the cosmic capsules are these special things that change future, but like, why could this not have been like? Why could it not have been like? They come from a different like galaxy, and they're coming here to finally take over Earth, and like Earth has its own set of cosmic capsules. Why did we have to introduce time travel? And oh god, next season also has time travel, but at least it sets ground rules and does not feel like it needs to overcomplicate itself with all of this stuff. It's just the series did not need time travel. It did not need to complicate itself further, because I legitimately think the people writing this also didn't know how they wanted to work time travel into this, because it is just a giant mess of go on. But the season is also a comedy, which never gets a laugh out of me. I was more just maybe once or twice it's something, but it is never funny in any way. Like, there's a movie, it happens, it's non-canon, it's a big final crossover. Maybe I'll talk about it when I've seen the other two seasons, because it really feels like you need to have watched the other Sazer series, but after this, I don't really have the best expectations, because this is perfectly fine. The first 13 episodes are not good. They are, oh my god. But it does get to that, I'd say, average, maybe kind of a little below average status, but this was like, this series was 2005 and 2006. That would have been, that would have been like late Hibiki, early Kabuto, Maji Ranger, your Bokender thing. I get the feeling that those are probably a lot better and or more interesting. Does that all sound? Oh, I cut all this out just to be. Okay, it's not almost. Like, that's also a max, but I guess. Like, there are just so many better series, in my opinion, that were released around this time. Like, even regarding Hibiki and its whole thing, this just feels so derivative. Like, a writer was just told to look at what was popular with other series and just try to emulate that. That is what this season feels like. Again, if this was your childhood, or you watched this and you did like it, I'm not going to try and argue on that point. If you liked it, you liked it. I'm not going to almost try and change your mind about this. But for me, this was definitely not good. So, yeah, speaking of time travel, we have a lot of Deno to go over. And it might be a bit just to get through my writing and my notes stuff, so we'll see what I do in between. As always, do the things that make YouTube want to see me and do stuff. I really don't. Probably no one's gonna see this because it's one of those weird off-brand tokus. Yeah, see you around.